I think being motivated by Deen al-Islam, the Quran and the Sunnah, and I'm going to quote you the Holy Quran, chapter 49:13, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us insan, human beings, and He says, human beings, we created you all from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. Verily, the most noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the one who's Allah-fearing. And I think, this is something that many of us Muslims especially forget, that we have been created in nations and tribes, and that we should respect each other, recognize them, and not bring about racism or prejudice in it. And that in itself is another topic. So, we need to just look at how best, as activists and as people who want to level the playing fields from apartheid, the different level of treatment, to now building a nation where everyone is recognized for every aspect of human dignity and human life.
Absolutely. Now, can you share, an example of a successful human rights campaign or initiative that you've been involved in, and what made this impactful?
In 1996, my colleagues and I decided that we all grew up in apartheid. We went to segregated education schools. Our education was segregated. Let's do something different. So we began the Youth Peace Forum in 1996, where we officially invited schools to come and participate in a different mode of doing things, where we had schools from the formerly, and they were still very much the divided school, the white schools, the Model C schools, the government schools, rural and urban schools. So invited them and they came, and this was like a breaking point for us as activists and human rights, where we could sit learners from the different diversity and look at how we could address the changes. And fortunately, I have had the opportunity to do a bit on change management, conflict resolutions, and so on. So I was equipped to see that if there were tensions, we would look at the best way that we can solve it. So the Youth Peace Forum started then, and we had all the learners coming to the school, and so it was a good turning point for us that today some of the learners from 30 plus minus years are now supporting us in facilitating these workshops, and we still are continuing with our Youth Peace Forum.
Absolutely. It's so inspiring to hear. I feel like I'm going through an history lesson with you as well. But look, even how do you believe individuals can contribute to promotion and the protection of human rights in their daily lives beyond just awareness raising?
I think it all begins with me, and that is, what we all need to take into consideration. If I am a peace initiator, a peace ambassador, a peace builder, I need to be at peace with myself. So this is our process that in our workshops, our forums, and I'm involved in international training with ethics education. So wherever we are, we look at what do I bring to that whole space. And if you come with an open mind and you come with absolutely no prejudice, you'll be able to be on a win-win situation. And so this is the way that each one should start off and say, I want to do these things, and I want to do it for the benefit of myself and for whoever I am engaging with. And if that can be the premise that we start, it will be fruitful, because I can go on for days telling you that the achievements we had, but one is absolutely significant. A young matriculant from St. Francis College was dynamic. He was engaged in politics. He spoke about Palestine at our forum. And I decided that, when we see inspiring young people, we need to celebrate them. We need to support them. It's just not empowering people. I can empower the world, but if I don't support them along the way, then I am just leaving a loose cannon. So I was fortunate that when I went to Robben Island on my first trip, Ahmed Kathrada, the veteran Robben Island prisoner, marhum Ahmed Kathrada, was on this, and he wore a world peace cap. And sometimes you see the significance of where we are today, and he gave me this cap, and I had it for all those years. And I decided last year that this hat belongs to Bosisa, our young learner. He's at university now, and the first children's forum at WAMI held early this month. He was one of my guest speakers. So this is what I believe in: empowerment and supporting people. Now that he is closer to me at university, I'm going to support him also and look at how we can pave his way to be an asset, a young asset in our community.
And something greater. But I know you spoke about Palestine. Now, regarding the situation in Palestine, how do you think that the international community can best support the rights and aspirations of the Palestinian people?
Look, I've been to Jordan, and I've seen Palestine from and the ruins in Jordan from the bombings. And it is just so disturbing. And so I believe, as a Palestine activist, is we need to listen to the Palestinians, and we don't come up with our own, this is what they should do and this is what they shouldn't do, but we listen to them and amplify their voices. Like, for instance, the 30th of this month is a Land Day. And so we must try our level best to support them in our campaigns, support them in their campaigns, and see how for many years prior to October, the Palestine Solidarity Forum in South Africa were doing things to just talk about Palestine. And now that we have seen what the challenges are, I think we need to look at how we amplify the campaign. So that's one of the campaigns. And from the 1st to the 7th of May, there's another campaign, and we need to see how we get people need to join social media, and so these are the spaces that we talk about Palestine solidarity. And we have fortunately had lots of Palestinians coming to South Africa and being with us and talking about their difficulties, their hardship, the bombings. And last Saturday, Professor Haider Eid launched his book. And he told us we need to speak a little louder because he suffers from those bombs, and he can't hear properly, and he's been in Gaza and he's witnessed all these things. Now, as my everyday job, I am the South African coordinator of the Global Network on Religions for Children, very passionate with children. They are our present and our future, and I am absolutely disgusted that no one can come forth and say ceasefire, that we can save our children from this traumatic experience that they are going through. So we try our level best to see how we can be their voice in the international space.
Now, from a South African perspective, what role do you think education plays in promoting a culture of human rights, and how can we better integrate human rights education into our formal curricula?
I think we've been talking about this for a very long time. It's very disappointing, it's very disturbing that South Africa, in our 30 years, we haven't changed our syllabus as yet. And I think we need to look at how our free generation, those that have been born and have had absolutely no experience of apartheid, to come forth and look at how we can talk about using Palestinian stories, using South African stories as set books, looking at questions that we set in the exam papers, whether it's matriculant, we contextualize it to the situation in South Africa. And so in that light, I think there's, although we're 30 years in our democracy, there's a lot of work still to go. And one of my famous quotations is, South Africa, when we reached democracy, we didn't teeth, we didn't crawl, and because we were so happy for democracy, we began running. So we didn't make those necessary changes from within. And I think those are the changes that we need to. And I think for my generations and people that have experienced apartheid, and then we're able to translate and do things differently. Like I was also part of the National Youth Development Forum before 94, and I was adamant that I didn't want to sit with anybody that were pro-apartheid, like the Nationalist Party, the IFP, and many of them. But as we went along with all our training on conflict resolution and how we're going to build our country, and looking at what Madiba himself did, he said if he held grudges, we wouldn't be where we are.
Absolutely.
So we, especially me as an Islamic educator, I take my cue from the Quran and the Sunnah, and then I will look at what Madiba said, what Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and the many people that were in our midst that we gained a lot of learning from. We'll be able to look at it. So every system in South Africa need to go through a drastic change so that our systems are in order, that we don't have any South African, irrespective of what their religious ethnicity is, that they go and fight in a foreign country. Absolutely full stop to that kind of thing. Absolutely. So inshallah we'll be able to address those challenges that we face.
Inshallah, Ameen. But now looking ahead, what are your hopes and aspirations for the future of human rights advocacy and the overall advancements of human rights in South Africa?
Many of us don't know what our Constitution says about human rights.
Truly.
It's a document, it's there, and we will be very quick to say, the Constitution gives me all my rights, but what are those rights? So part of the ethics education is we always talk to people about the Convention on the Right of the Child. We talk about our rights and responsibilities. And so if I know I have a certain right, I need to support it with a responsibility, and not just go blank on and say, this is my right, and I am not responsible for the consequences out of it. We need to be very appreciative of what we have in South Africa, and that is that Alhamdulillah, we are where we are now with the changes, but we also need to see how we, and I think this is like just a repetition of every community in South Africa giving back to our country. So I may have an ethnicity, I may have a background, but foremost is I am South African. I was born here, I was educated here, and my whole commitment is for my country first and for everything else. And I think if we are educated in this light, then we can play a role globally. Like I mentioned to you, I am a founder member of the African Union Interfaith Dialogue Forum. So the Foreign Affairs and our government knew that I was sitting there as a Muslim woman and as a South African, in those spaces. So I think we need to break out of that lager mentality we are in our race, ethnicity, etc., and just be human beings contributing to the betterment ourselves and our society. And inshallah, we'll be able to address human rights. And we need to respect people. And if you respect them, you get the same respect. And in that light, we'll be able to change the dynamics that we still face 30 years down the line.
Absolutely. I look at you and I just see inspiration and just a wealth of knowledge. But I think that's all we have time for. But Jazakallah so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue inspiring you and everyone that want to address these challenges that we face. Shukran jazeelan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was Sister SAYDOON NISA, who is a human rights, peace, interfaith Islamic activist. There's so much more under this belt, but that's all I could have fitted today, inshallah. Let's go for a short ad break, and inshallah, when we come back, we're going to jump straight into our Ramadan reflections.